Okay, so little introduction, I guess. My name's Keon. I kind of look like crap right now, partially because I haven't slept very well the past couple days. I get insomnia occasionally, partially because I haven't shaved, and because the lighting in my apartment is kind of shit. Anyway, that and my camera and my laptop suck too, as I adjust them, which is probably gonna fuck with your guys' views a little bit. So I'm. What can I tell you quickly? Making a video. Don't know how long it's going to be. It's going to be a bit of a rant. I'm 21, halfway to 22. I'm relatively simple. Metalhead, and that's kind of important because of the topic of this. So I'm going to do my best to format this video as best I can. In the description, if my eyes seem like they're drifting around, it's because I'm recording this on my laptop's camera whilst I am going through what I'm going to be ranting about on the same laptop, so I'm not necessarily paying attention to how I look on the camera at the moment. Alright, so let's dive right in. I found something on my YouTube, and I've already seen some responses to it, and I figured I'd throw my own out there. That made me kind of annoyed, pissed me off a little bit. I am openly a metalhead. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but I'm wearing an Helvetii toque right now. It's a little bit chilly in my apartment. Quite proud of that hat, actually. Very cool story there. That's a story for another time. I also own. I've got a few Iron Maiden T-shirts, lots of metal CDs. I just love the music in general. I've unfortunately only gotten to see 3 shows. I hope to see many more. 2 of them were Iron Maiden, which were awesome. One of them with Alice Cooper. The other was Dream Theater, and then one was Helvetii. I got to see Varro, Wintersun, and Helvetii. I think there was a 4th band I can't remember right now. Anyway, my big issue was I found this video from something called April and Wayne channel. Christian bigots, your average crazy people. They remind me of Westboro Baptist Church, but the videos they made really irritated me a little bit. They're called something to the effect of exposing metal as satanic and Illuminati, which bothers me for a whole slew of reasons I won't get into too much other than to say, okay, Satanism and Illuminati, you can't have both. They're not the same. They are very different. Illuminati are atheists. They aren't supposed to believe in anything, actually. So that one, you kind of fucked the dog up a little bit right there. But moving on. Okay, so let's dive into this. Alright, so we're gonna start things off with the first part of their stupid video here, which I have huge issues with. Okay. Let's start with metal has caused many youth. I'm going to go to random quotes here that really bother me. I'm skipping a few. If you want to see the whole video, see my link in the description. I'll link the guys who did a really awesome response to this. But metal has caused many youth to turn to drugs, become rebellious, become sexually promiscuous, including bisexuality. Okay. I'm gonna take a moment. Here. Welcome to the modern day, you fucking idiots. There's nothing wrong with being bisexual. There's nothing wrong with being homosexual. Wake up. Stop living in, like, the 1700s. Realize we're in 2013, almost in 2014. It'll probably be 2014 by the time this video makes it anywhere big, if it does at all. We are at a time and age where, I don't say you have to be tall. I don't say you have to accept this. You can still call it a sin. But as a great quote I love. Love thy neighbor. Love thy neighbor as your own. That was all of what Jesus told you. Love them, feed them as your own, take care of them. What if they believe in other gods or are gay? What did I just say? It is not your place to judge. Did he fucking stutter? Judgment is supposed to be, according to anything I've read from the Bible and anything most Christians have told me, judgment, according to your guys' religion, I am not a Christian, I am a practicing druid, a type of what you would call pagan. Don't even get me into how wrong that term is, because there's like 1,000 religions under 1,000 faiths and faithful paths and such under that. But anyway, according to what I know of your religion, of Christianity, isn't judgment of somebody's soul supposed to be deemed only, the soul realm of the big man upstairs? What makes you guys, any of you, I don't even care, like April and Wayne, but anybody who's a Christian, period. And I hope I get some response from some of you more extreme people on this video. I really do. It'll be fun. But what makes any of you think that you have the qualifications of a so-called all-powerful being and makes it so you are allowed to judge? If what your faith says is true, only he's supposed to have the authority and qualifications to do that job. So what makes you think you do? Your resume does not nearly approach what his would. So stop. Just no. Anyway, moving on. The drugs. Okay, gonna step up to that plate right now. Got a big problem with this one personally, because I'm a recovered addict myself. We're not going to get into that story too much. But part of why I stopped was metal music. Iron Maiden specifically. That's the band that I like to say I am a huge believer in the fact music can save lives almost. And with how certain things are affecting teenagers and young adults' minds today, a lot of the time, yes, music, they find a way to save themselves. I'm going to get into that later in the video. Without finding that music, along with the help of somebody whose name's now inked on my back, I would be dead. I often do say that they saved my life, and in many ways they did. Their music just kind of gave me something to look at and go, why? Why am I doing... It gave me this message of courage, bravery, and most importantly, a belief in myself. That I could walk away. I could walk away from the pills. That I could get off the ride. And, their music doesn't have that effect necessarily on a lot of people because they don't actually write about it. Excuse me while I grab a sip of the drink I have here. Refreshing. But that's what they did for me. They helped me out that way. Specifically, Hallowed Be Thy Name, and because I was, I realized, okay, if I'm not afraid of dying, then what am I afraid of? And the answer should be nothing. If you have no fear of death, then what else is there to be afraid of in life? Sorry if my mic moved there a bit. I'm kind of got a makeshift workstation set up here, and it's not necessarily the most comfortable thing. Anyway, let me readjust the camera, let it relax. There we go. Okay. Now, so I don't know about that. As for rebellious and sexually promiscuous, I don't approve of some of the idea of the stupid version of this, but I do approve of carpe diem. Be prepared for the consequences of the choices you make. Understand understand and accept that the consequences are yours to bear alone. But that does not mean you should not go out of your way to do things because you want to. It's different than that stupid YOLO bullshit you hear a lot of people say. What I'm saying is you have to know and accept that. Don't go do something just for fun and then pretend like you didn't know the risks. Stop being an idiot. But at the same time, if you believe the risks are acceptable, don't be afraid to try. There's no reason to be afraid to try. Because at the end of the day, you might never get another chance to try. So, why should we... Life's too short to, not go out of your way to have a bit of fun. Do I encourage drug abuse? No. That being said, do I encourage a bit of rebellion? Yeah. Question everything. Only by questioning do you learn. Only by questioning do we grow. Without the search for answers, we don't become any better. As for sexual promiscuity and including bisexuality, I've already talked about that enough. Like what you like, have sex with what you like to have sex with. Not my business. Just do it safely and accept that there are consequences if you don't. And step to the plate and take those consequences if you invoke them. Okay. This next one pisses me off. Like, this one really pisses me off. So I'll try to keep this short and to the point. Metal promotes self-destruction, including suicide. Rock music gets millions of youth to experiment with drugs, yada yada. In the 1980s, probably did do that a fair bit. It is what it is. The metal promotes self-destruction, including suicide. That one bothers me. That one bothers me a lot. I would like to send out a big fuck you right now to anybody who believes that. I'm not an actual Bring Me the Horizon fan, but I'm gonna use one of their quotes: "Middle fingers up if you don't give a fuck." So there you go, boys and girls. Because no, that I can think of no metal band that promotes or tells anybody it's a good idea to commit suicide. In fact, most of them are of the exact opposite opinion. I can't remember who said this, but I think it's actually a fair number of what a lot of the younger kids are saying is metal now. I have a very different opinion. I was raised on 80s metal, Metallica, Iron Maiden, Pantera, all that good stuff. But a lot of kids say this is more of a punkish new version, I guess. A lot of the artists are saying things like, what's the one quote I liked? I don't remember exactly who said it, but wrists are for bracelets, not for cutting, or something like that. A lot of them, it's the exact opposite. They are far from encouraging suicide. They're actually encouraging people to not commit suicide. Because, well, why? Most of them are saying, and to say it best, if you're suicidal, good, take the barrel out of your mouth. If you're suicidal, good, that means the world's your motherfucking oyster, because obviously you don't care what happens to you. Go out there, take a risk. Do something crazy. You were looking at a 100% death chance before. You're playing it safe now. There's no reason not to try to do something if you're... honestly. So, they're trying, they're sending a message that there's people who care, no matter what you believe, and that you shouldn't. They're basically begging you not to. They're trying to show you that there are others like you. You're not alone. You're never alone. And it's a beautiful message, and the fact that you guys are trying to say it's wrong, not anybody watching this video necessarily, just these people, and I'm gonna do my best to make sure they see this. The fact that they're trying to say that's wrong, it really actually bothers me a lot. The core of metal is sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Okay, no. That might have been true a really long time ago, but times are changing. Most of the metal you listen to now, most of the metal that you listen to a lot actually, talks about the sicknesses of society today. What's wrong with society? How do we fix it? Admittedly, a lot of how do we fix it part, air quotes, very aggressive way of fixing it. A lot of it involves destroying something or taking down a large organ or something like that. But that's not necessarily untrue. A lot of society's problems, to put it bluntly, today, could very well be fixed if we kind of cleaned up, to put it bluntly. But such a thing will never happen. That doesn't mean we can't dream. And there's also a lot of history. Look at Iron Maiden. We'll start there. The Trooper. They're talking about the charge of the Light Brigade. That terrible battle. Or better, one of my favorite examples, The Longest Day. Try telling me that song is satanic. I may not have personally, but I do know and have enough friends who had family who served in World War II. In fact, I have a couple of friends who, their grandparents survived, their grandfather, one friend's grandfather survived D-Day. He was on those beaches. I would, if I ever saw you and after you said that, I would personally bitch smack you. That song is a giant, cold, heartfelt, wet slap in the face compared to most other songs and things that are supposed to be to remember veterans. This one's telling you to remember the people who served in World War II, especially those people who stormed D-Day. This one's telling you the cold hard realities of it. I'm just gonna quote it actually here because that one also really gets me. Give me a moment. But they have a lot of songs that Passchendaele, they're Aces High. All of that stuff is all about people who served in both world wars and people and remembering them. So let's see here, like in the gloom, the gathering storm abates. In the ship's gimlet eyes await the call to arms, to hammer at the gates, to blow them wide, throw evil to its fate. How is that evil? They're like, what are you talking about? Like, Overlord, that was the name of the operation. They're not talking about anybody in that. They're Overlord, your master, not your god. That was the name of that was one of the code names for the operation that was D-Day. That has nothing to do with anything religious. The enemy coast dawning grey with scud, these wretched souls puking, shaking fear to take a bullet for those who sent them here. Again, nothing to do with religion. These wretched souls, yeah, most of the soldiers puked. You want to know why? It's called nerves. You're going to a beach that you're about to storm, that you know full well that the enemy is entrenched and probably waiting for you. Yeah, I'd be pretty terrified too. To take a bullet for those who sent them here? Yeah, they're taking a bullet for the countries and the people who sent them here, along with the people behind enemy lines, in this case, because World War II, Nazis, Holocaust, all that delightfully evil stuff that had to be dealt with. But they're taking a bullet for those who sent them here and for those they're there to try to save. The world's alight, the cliffs erupt in flame. Okay. No. I've had people... This whole verse, the world's alight, the cliffs erupt in flame, no escape, remorseless shrapnel rains, drowning men, no chance for a warrior's fate, a choking death enter hell's gate. Not actually about hell. The world's alight, the cliffs erupt in flame. That's just the description of what it looks like when all of a sudden umpteen million machine guns being fired by Nazi soldiers start lighting up on top of the cliffs. Yeah, it literally looks like the cliffs are on fire because there's literally that many guns. No escape, remorseless shrapnel rains. You ever seen an artillery piece go off? Take that and multiply it by a couple hundred. Drowning men, no chance for a warrior's fate. Well, yeah, if you're drowning, you're not getting a warrior's fate. A warrior's fate is to die in battle. And trust me, drowning, her description of somebody who survived drowning. He was stuck underwater for 30 minutes. Worst way I can envision dying. Period. A choking death, enter hell's gate. Well... they're choking to death slowly, and they're soldiers. There's not a soldier alive, even if they are religious, who truly believes that they're going to heaven. Extremist terrorists notwithstanding, I just mean a true soldier, somebody who knows what they're doing is not necessarily right, but they're doing it for what they believe is right. That does not mean they believe they're going to heaven. Most people with a proper soldier's mentality realize they're probably going, if there is a heaven or hell, that they're going to hell, but they're doing this for the greater good of those they care about. The rising dead, faces bloated, torn. They are relieved, the living wait their turn. Your number's up, the bullets got your name. You still go on to hell and back again. That hell and back again, that's only just referring to the fact that storming those beaches was hell on earth. After this, the men who survived, they laugh at your Christian idea of hell. Because they have seen hell, and hell is, I'm not going to say Nazi because that's not a fair description. It's any enemy machine gun fire raining down on you by the bucketfuls. When you have no protection, nowhere to hide. Your only hope is to be able to run fast enough that they can't get a clean shot. I'm not even going to say I understand the level of terror they must have felt, or the amount of bravery that would have been necessary to do what they did, but I am going to say, from the descriptions I've heard and the stories I've read, I consider myself fearless. I consider myself somebody who's brave. I'm not afraid to die. I never have been. I'm not scared of anything that I can think of. I'm not sure I would have the courage to face down what those men did. So, now that's just one song, and I could go on. Iron Maiden does a lot of this, and a lot of other bands do too. Sabaton. Sabaton's huge for that. Everything they write is about some soldiers or another. Something 40 to 1, a story most people don't know about in history, that they should. The elite SS Wehrmacht, if I'm pronouncing that right. The German Nazi elite SS, 40,000 roughly. These numbers are rough. The actual figure I heard quoted was like 41,000 and something to 720, but the song title sounds better with the title it has, 40 to 1, so they use those numbers. 40,000 Nazis, SS trained. Not all of them were SS, obviously, but they were SS trained. They were the Wehrmacht. They were the best the German military had to offer at the time. There was only 1,000 Polish soldiers at the Battle of Windsor. How is that a battle? Well, simple. Somehow those 1,000 Polish soldiers held off 40,000 Nazi troops for 3 motherfucking days. That shit is impressive. I don't care who you are. You're outnumbered 40 to 1. That shouldn't even have been a contest. It took 3 days? What the hell? What? No. Militarily speaking and tactically speaking, that shouldn't have taken a day. It should have taken a few hours tops. 3 days? Are you kidding me? Stuff like that. Stalingrad. I've heard a great quote about that one too. That song is all about the men and women at Stalingrad who fought. And trust me, despite what common history would have you believe, women were just as common as men in the Russian military. Not admitted, but when your country's being invaded by that type of force, well, you're basically anybody who can point a gun and kill somebody is basically going to try to fight, because you either fight or you die. That's essentially where it was at the time. Stalingrad, the best description I've heard of that one. Well, you foolish Christians think hell is hot. Fire and brimstone. I've talked as extensively-ish, not personally, but through forum and discussion board, to a man whose grandfather saw Stalingrad. The best thing I ever heard described came from him on this forum. He was told by the section leader, the leader of his division at the time, when he first showed up, how did he put it? Your non-existent God, because communist Russia at the time didn't allow religion, technically. Your non-existent God says hell is hot, that is fire and brimstone. Prepare yourself, you're in for a shock. Because hell is not hot. Hell is the cold, bleak, white, desperately freezing wasteland, cold that cuts to the very bone. The terrifying sight of waking up to your friends and comrades with frostbite, parts of them falling off. The terrifying sound of the only break in the cold, dead, howling wind. The thunder of the enemy, in this case the Nazi artillery, hammering home, seeing the body parts and the blood of your comrades flying and falling from the sky. True hell is not fire, gentlemen. True hell is ice and snow, and the thunderous roar of artillery. Welcome to hell. Welcome to Stalingrad. That description terrifies me. And without bands like Sabaton, we wouldn't know. We know our history, and yet we don't know it. We don't know the emotion. We don't know what they felt, what they went through. We pretend we can understand just by having numbers and statistics thrown at us. We can't. These bands take us one step closer. To truly understand, you'd have to talk to veterans, and there's not many left. But you'd have to pass on their stories. But I digress. My point is, as I got off topic, it's not about sex, drugs, and rock and roll anymore. It's about compassion, love, memory, a bit of aggression, but most importantly, it's about, a lot of it is now is history. A lot of it is now remembering our pasts. Iron Maiden, Metallica does a lot of this stuff about life, about anti-drug, anti-suicide. Iced Earth is a giant history legend, mythological legends, all that type of good stuff. Sabaton, nothing but history lessons everywhere. They tell stories that you don't even really realize. If you have never heard them, I suggest you go look them up. They are awesome. Elvati talks about the ancient history of ancient Celtic history, especially the newest album, Helvetios. The ancient Helveti people, what happened to them, the Roman betrayal. It's far more complex than you're willing to give it credit for. I mean, I'm going to keep throwing out the same few examples because they're my favorites, but I mean, this is true for anything that is considered in the metal or even a lot of the rock genre. I mean, Avenged, a lot of their stuff, Avenged Sevenfold, a lot of their stuff, I consider them more a rock, punk-ish area, maybe with some metal influences. Mostly rock, not even really punk. Scratch that, just rock. Rock, little heavy metal-ish influence on the side there, but it's mostly a hard rock, loud sound type deal. That's what I feel when I listen to them, is more of a hard rock type feel to it, with just that edge of metal, not really full-blown metal music. But either way, they're talking mostly about stuff up here, personal things up here. Now they got a couple songs about soldiers, Gunslinger, I believe So Far Away. I might be wrong on that one, don't quote me on that one, but the lyrics to me envision something to do with a fallen soldier. But a lot of their stuff is about up here. It's about realizing that there's nothing wrong with who you are. One of my favorites, Almost Easy. I've seen a live version of that one. I'm not insane, I'm not insane. You keep a lot of people who like that band, and I name myself fervently among them. I do like that band. I don't consider them metal music, but I love Avenged. I find myself thinking that a lot to myself every day, because everybody else around me seems to believe I'm crazy. A lot of people seem to believe I'm crazy because I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. It comes from my drug addict days. I'm willing to basically take any life or limb risk for a good thrill. I'm willing to jump bikes over things that I shouldn't. Excuse me, it's pretty late here. I'm willing to do almost anything for a good thrill. Now, my main point is, like I said, it's not about sex, drugs, and rock and roll anymore. I mean, yes, is that stuff there? Well, yes, obviously, sex is still there. Drugs are still there. Rock and roll, they will always be there. It is part of the culture to a degree, but the focus has shifted far and wide from that to include much more meaningful topics. Anyway, I might only do the first part of this 3-part stupid thing because I'm only 38 seconds in and this video is already pretty long. Alright, they quote some bands. I'm not going to get into that too much, except there is a hell, believe me, I've seen it. There is a heaven, let's keep it a secret, no one needs to know. Bring me the horizon, crucify me. They use that as a quote and say that they're encouraging people going to hell. I'm not going to get, this time I'm really going to keep this brief, but no. They're saying they've seen hell here on Earth, like I described back earlier with Stalingrad, that type of stuff. They've seen the dark side of humanity. Trust me, there's some things your fellow humans are capable of that would make your hell look like a candy land. I've been there. I know. I've seen it. There's a thing about being a drug addict and getting in deep. Okay. Carnifex's Hell Chose Me album. I don't really listen to Carnifex, but sorry about that. Thought I might have had a nosebleed there. I get them occasionally. Hell Chose Me. The title doesn't mean shit. You gotta, even that cover art, no, it's not a big deal. Shut up. Okay, let's break down what they say is in a metal video real quick. Let's start this off. Metal also promotes. Let's begin the fun. Witchcraft and Satanism. Okay. Witchcraft. I actually know Wiccans, the people you extreme Christians would call witches. Witchcraft. First of all, no. Second of all, Wicca is a peaceful belief. It's all about being positive, being a good person. Witchcraft is actually nothing but, good feelings. There is no. They have these rules that I like to use to explain this. Harm none, but do as ye will. And the rule of, I believe it's 3. I'd have to double check. If Haley, if you see this, I apologize. She's a person I know on Facebook. If you see this and I misquoted that rule, I apologize, but I believe it's anything you put out, you shall receive 3 times or something like that. So why would they hurt people if they're going to get that back 3 times? Doesn't make sense. Think logically, please. Think logically before you say things. Satanism. Okay. Which kind? Because there's like 12. Let's go with my favorite one. Levian Satanism, I believe is how you pronounce the guy's name. Not a big deal. They don't even believe in Satan. They call it Satanism more for the giggles and fun. There's nothing you worship. It's basically about believing in yourself. So, anyway, walking away from that topic now. Because, fuck you guys. Fucking ridiculous. What else do they say? Demonic possession and rage. Okay. We're gonna pause here a minute. And we're going to go into the demonic possession and rage thing real quick. Okay, demonic possession. They list a whole bunch of quotes about demonic possession. I'm not going to break them down because the video I'm going to link you guys to in my description will break that down for you. But all these so-called possession quotes, every artist who ever says they've on stage they felt possessed or whatever. I've watched every interview that they're talking about, almost all of them. There's only like one I haven't seen. You're using these quotes out of context, ignorantly or on purpose. If it's ignorantly, stop. Go do your friggin' go do your bloody research first. And if it's on purpose, stop being dickheads. Stop being assholes. Stop quoting things on purpose out of context. Those artists were talking about the massive boost of adrenaline, a naturally occurring substance, also known as epinephrine, inside of you. So if it's evil and a sin, I guess you are all going to hell too, because I promise you you've experienced it once. You ever stubbed your toe? Yeah, okay, if you have, I got bad news, April and Wayne. You're going to hell because you've experienced adrenaline. So, they are experiencing it from a good thing. Eustress is a term I heard. You get it from having all those people there who are like you. I can speak from experience of going to 3 concerts. I honestly cannot think of anything that I have experienced that was more thrilling, exciting, and fulfilling than being around that and with that many people that I could basically call brother and sister. Because that is the mentality. These people are your brothers, these people are your sisters. You're all united. I'm going to purposely quote something here. Iron Maiden, when they were on their latest DVD, when they were talking about the terrible incident that happened in Tokyo, the DVD was on Vivo when that earthquake and such shit happened in Tokyo, when all that shit went down. They were supposed to have shows, they couldn't go, Tokyo was all fucked up. They did this whole thing about saying how bad Tokyo was in Chile, and they were saying, like, you guys, this, it really makes you stop and think, and they, on a side note for you guys, they donated apparently a buttload of the funds from the whole tour to Tokyo, so good on them. Well done, guys. Humanitarians as always. But what he was saying was, it kind of makes you stop and think and realize something. Libya, he's like, we got Iron Maiden fans in Libya and Syria and, Iraq and all Baghdad, Iraq, and all these places where all this terrible shit is going on. And it makes you really kind of stop and realize it doesn't matter if you're male, female, Muslim, Christian, Catholic. I'm going to add some things here because he stopped at Jewish and basically just said etc. But I'm going to add a couple of things here. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, pansexual. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you're an Iron Maiden fan, you're an Iron Maiden fan. You're part of one fucking family in one world. Because we're all blood brothers. And that's exactly it. That is the atmosphere of being a fan of any sort of metal band. It doesn't matter if the person beside you is male, female, Muslim, Christian, Catholic, black, white. It doesn't matter. When you're at that show, when you're in that venue, and that band is on the stage, you're family. Because you're the same. You're there for the same reasons. You're there for the same purpose. And nothing else matters. So, now, moving on to the rage thing. Yes, rage is a huge thing in heavy metal. It's very important. But now hold on. You're telling me anger is wrong? No. Show me the list of 7 deadly sins. Wrath is wrong. That implies I'm killing somebody because I'm angry. I don't see me killing anybody at a metal show. The worst I've maybe done is, I think in that one mosh pit I might have messed up a guy's arm, and he bought me a beer afterwards anyway, so I'm pretty sure he was cool with it. But then again, he also messed me up pretty good too. So it happens. But how can I put this? Okay. It's strange that I'm going to keep coming back to this particular person, but he just says so many good quotes. I'm going to come back to Bruce again from Iron Maiden. We play a strange type of music. Many people judge it without listening to it or thinking about it. In truth, we are singing about things that are very morally right. If you actually take the time to truly listen to the lyrics of most of their stuff, Number of the Beast is a great example. He is not talking about summoning Satan. So please, any Christians who still believe that, stop. Stop. Go sit in a corner and think about what you just said, because the man is probably a stricter Christian than you've ever been. He's like Old Testament fire and brimstone type of Christian. Not truly, fully. I mean, he believes in a God and everything else, and he likes the Old Testament, but he was raised Old Testament fire and brimstone. What he believes in now, I do not have the authority nor context to be able to say, because, well, I don't research them that much. I ain't, stalker. I don't stalk my favorite band. But I do know from one interview that that's how he was raised, and he does believe in a God, and he does believe in something. That being said, Number of the Beast is actually very morally right, if you actually take the time to listen to it and think about the context, not line by line, but all the lines as one unit. And it's a song. It should be thought about as one unit. And then he says, we're doing it in an aggressive way. It's kind of aggressive in your face. But the main thing is, they're going out there and they're simply giving people somewhere that they can cut loose and scream. Somewhere where you won't be judged for that. If you've ever just felt like, and fed up, that's what they're doing. And that's wrong. Why? That's brilliant. That's perfect. That's A, great marketing, and B, necessary. Metalheads are the most... I have met people who are metalheads. I have met people who rap. I've met hip-hop. And believe it or not, I think you can judge a lot about a person's taste in music. I have yet to find a metalhead who I would feel less safe with. Like, who I would feel unsafe around. I feel safer around most metalheads I know than anybody who is a rap fan or anything like that. Because day to day, metalheads are the most sane and safe people around. Because unlike all the rest of those, like especially the metalheads who attend concerts regularly, they cut loose. They have an outlet. Their anger never bottles up and never sits inside them for very long because they have an outlet right there, in their ears, in their earbuds. So they never let it emotionally stack up on them. Now, this might be part 1 of 3. This is probably going to be a part 1 of 3 rant, and this is probably going to be a really long video series. Anyway, Okay. Alright. Now, moving on to, I'm just going to start actually using my comments that I sent these people, because, well, I prefer that way of doing this. Makes it easier. Okay. So, now, I have a big issue with something else here. Coming back to the suicide thing. This, my exact quote is, "This type of so-called evil music has probably saved more lives in the last 5 decades than," I said, "your stupid faith." No offense to any Catholics or Christians out there. I just have a huge problem with these people. But this is and their version of Christianity. So I actually see a very big difference between your average, reasonable practicing Christian Catholic, and as I'll explain later in this little rant, versus this old school fear-mongering type. So this type of so-called evil music has probably saved more lives in the last 5 decades than your faith has saved in the last 5 centuries. Do you actually know how many suicidal teens and young people who live in broken homes with abusive parents or in dangerous situations find their lifeline in music? Hi, I did not live in a broken home. My parents were amazing, perfect, the best they could have been. My dangerous situation was one of my own making. I got into drugs. I broke my own life. And I'll admit, I contemplated suicide. I attempted it from when I was 14 to 16, probably no less than 8 times. I'm not going to get into exactly what I did. Needless to say, I bear a lot of the scars internally. I was smart about my self-harm. I didn't like leaving marks because marks have to be explained. So I kind of went the route of damaging myself internally as best I could. But you know how many of these people find their lifelines in music? I'll admit I was one of those people. Music, and also a friend, a very close friend. I'm not going to get into kind of a depressing topic, but find their lifeline in music. Music saves lives. I don't care what anybody says. It does. These bands are doing more good than and in this case I am talking about every religion. I'm sorry if you are a hardcore Christian or Catholic. These bands, no matter what you think, are doing more good than your churches ever will. I'm one of those voices. I was a drug addict. I hated myself. I was going to kill myself. I was ready to kill myself. If not for Iron Maiden, for their music, and eventually for getting to actually meet and talk to Steve Harris, the bassist and mind behind the music. Met him in Toronto. I doubt he remembers me. I literally just met him because I happened to be wandering the street and he was out from the hotel for some reason. The day before one of the shows. I had no idea who he was when I was talking to him. Like, legitimately. It only clicked when I saw him on stage the next day. But I'd have killed myself for sure. Because of them, and eventually discovering all these other bands, there's a message of freedom and willpower and honesty and acceptance they sing about. It's the exact opposite of what is preached in most religions, which is you have to fit a certain archetype. You have to be like everybody else. Metal music is something that preaches a different message that's strong and clean. It preaches there's nothing wrong with being the freak. There's nothing wrong with being different. There's nothing wrong with being insane. We're all a little insane. Why not just embrace it? And because of that, I found the strength to get clean. I've been clean. It was 6 years as of the winter solstice, December 21st. But without them, along with a varying amount of other factors, but without just metal music in general and Iron Maiden specifically, I'd be dead. I would have killed myself. The ones like, this is directed towards April and Wayne and anybody who have their particular views on this. The ones like me outnumber the ones like you. Every day, hundreds if not thousands of kids and teens in broken homes or in terrible situations, or young adults who have been crushed under the weight of the world, whether it be for who they chose to love, gays and lesbians and bisexuals, or what they believe in, i.e. religious minorities and everything else, think about suicide. A lot of them are very serious about it. That being said, what's the most common thing that stops them? They throw on a special song by one of these so-called satanic bands that do what this group is calling satanic, and it reminds them that life only gets better if you stand up and fight for it. It reminds them that they have the power to decide how good or bad things are. It reminds them that they can make things better for themselves. Your kind of faith was big, a long time ago, when people needed to be herded like sheep. But your rules are archaic and mad. I've met modern Christians. Again, like I said, shout out to the modernized Catholics and Christians. I have met a fair number of you, and I have nothing but respect for the way you're changing the viewpoints of your faith and actually become accepting people. You're the reasonable ones, the reasonable kind who don't hate nor judge for any choices that anyone makes. Those are the true shining examples of faith in God. For essentially, did he not basically tell you love them as your neighbor, and you're not supposed to judge them? For who are you to judge? If your faith is right, that's his job. You don't have the qualifications, so why are you trying to do something that you don't have the qualifications for? Times are changing. Your religion is slowly fading, giving way to a new version of tolerance. The same faith, just now it's a more tolerant version where it's like, I don't know, it's the shift from believing you have to somehow convert everybody to Jesus and to the version I can appreciate more and respect more, where it's like, this is what I believe in. I think what you're doing is wrong. That being said, I'm not going to tell you you're evil and that you're going to hell or anything like that. Live your life how you deem fit. I'll live mine how I deem fit, and we won't know who's right till we're dead. And that I can respect that one at least. But why? Because the youth demand it. Because we want to be free to sing, dance, and believe what we believe in. Because these ideals, the messages in the music, the messages from the heart of these men and women saved many of our lives. That's more than, your so-called Jesus, the one and only Savior, and all this madness that you're going on about in these videos there, April and Wayne, has ever done. I've had numerous discussions with fellow people who have contemplated taking their own lives, and generously, I'd be willing to give 2, plausibly 3 out of 10, said religion saved their lives. Most of them, it was either a friend who stepped in, but a lot of them, I'd say actually probably about half, so probably 5 out of 10, maybe even 6 or 7, it was music. Some sort of music touched them enough and sent them enough of a message, and they're just like changed how they saw things. They're just like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna, just take my own life. I'm gonna stand up. I'm gonna become better, or break whatever problem, or take on whatever problem head on. And that's the difference. It's the difference between the old version, right, that these people are trying to preach, which is like slavery, fear, and cowardice. That's what I equate to old Christianity. You're a slave, you're supposed to be a God-fearing man, and you're supposed to be basically a coward. You're supposed to want to live carefully. You're supposed to be afraid of consequences. No. Times have changed. There's no reason for that nonsense anymore. Why should I have to be a slave? Why should I not be free to be me? Why should I fear God when he's supposed to love everyone? Even if I believed in God, like I said, I'm not Christian, but why should I fear something that's supposed to love me? And why be a coward? I believe in respecting the consequences of what you do, but why should I be a coward? Why should I be scared to try new things just because they could have consequences? That's no reason not to do something. That's just foolish. You'll never learn if you're afraid to learn. And then, the whole point at the end of the video was they're telling the problem that Wayne and April point out here that they have is it's telling youth to believe in themselves, not in Jesus, the one and only Savior and our Lord and God, or something to that effect. Okay. And this is basically the last part of this. For this, I might just put it all in one video, actually, fuck it. So this might be good. Basically, okay, hold on. I wanna break this one down for you here. So you're telling me that believing, you're trying to tell all these kids who the only reason a lot of us are still around. I do still count myself among them to a point. I'm grown up now, and I'm in the big, wide, so-called scary world. I'm going to tell you guys now, anybody who watches this who's a bit younger than me, it's not that scary. It's tough. I'll admit it's tough. I live paycheck to paycheck. Work what I would call a mediocre job. I mean, it's good work, fair workout. I mean, I don't mind the people I work with and everything else. It's not what I expected. It's not exactly perfect, but it pays the bills. Satisfying to a degree. But 21, living paycheck to paycheck. I have debts. I definitely have debts, and I will admit, some weeks it gets tough. I mean, this Christmas alone. I mean, I might have to deal with a couple phone calls from my bank because I'm not entirely sure if things are going to bounce or not. That all depends if my vacation paycheck actually goes in this Friday or not. I'm not sure. But it's survivable. It's nothing to get down about. You just gotta pull up your big boy or girl pants and just face it down and deal with it. It's not that hard. All it takes is a little bit of belief in yourself and one hell of a lot of guts. But anyway, back to the point. You're trying to tell all these people that believing themselves is wrong. No. To anybody who's religious who says that you need to believe in Jesus and God more than yourself, I'd like to refer you to a great joke. A man is in his house. It's flooding, and the countryside's flooding. The water's rising, and he's extremely religious. And his neighbor comes by in his car. He says, "Come on, get in. It's flooding. We're gonna get flooded. You got to come with me." No. The religious man says, "God will save me." So his neighbor just drives off, thinking he's crazy. Ends up on his roof, and not his roof. Sorry, second story of his house. The first story is now completely underwater. And through the window, he sees somebody else he knows coming by with a rowboat. And the guy tries to get up to the side of the house, the guy in the rowboat, and says, "Jump in. We got to get out of here. It's gonna flood." And the religious guy says, "No, God will save me." Well, the guy on the rowboat's like, "Well, fuck you. I'm leaving." So he just leaves. Ends up on his roof now, and everything's flooded. He's got nowhere else to go at this point. Well, now that his roof is flooded, he's pretty much screwed. Helicopter comes by, throws a rope at him, tells him, the guy who has the helicopter is like, "Come on, we got to get out of here." It's not a rescue chopper, it's just a chopper. It's one man, he's got a rope in it. I don't know why, maybe it's a news crew chopper, I don't fucking know. But it's the point of the joke isn't that. So he's there with the chopper, and he throws the rope at him. The guy in the chopper tells him we got to go, and the religious man says, "No, God will save me." Well, the guy in the chopper, maybe he was low on fuel, whatever, but he doesn't stay or try to convince me. He's like, "Well, fuck you," then he flies away. Well, the very religious man eventually drowns and dies. Obviously, he didn't escape the flood. He's on top of his roof. He's got nowhere to go. Drowns and dies. Ends up at the pearly gates. Looks at God. And he says, "You bastard, why didn't you save me?" God looks at him. I sent you a guy in a car, a guy in a rowboat, and a guy in a helicopter. What more do you want me to fucking do? Even if your God is real, he's not going to come down with a holy, chariot and lights and shit and do things for you. You gotta do it yourself. So, I think that's total bullshit. You gotta believe in yourself. If you have no belief in yourself, then you'll never get anywhere. I already talked enough about that. Basically just had a little rant to them about the brave men who stormed Normandy. A lot of them, like I said, I've talked to people who know veterans. A lot of them weren't thinking about religion, like like some people would believe. They weren't praying to any god. They were mentally preparing themselves to march through true hell. They had faith in themselves and the men in their units, their brothers in arms, and that was it. Jesus, God, and Satan be damned. They were, as far as they were concerned, none of those three existed. None of those three mattered. It was basically them, their guns, and they were going to get through this, or they weren't. But they were going to give it everything they had to get through it. one way or the other. So the point is, the most impressive feats of man, this includes woman, just humanity as a race and whole, it only happen when we believe in ourselves, not an outside source. Only through believing in ourselves do we break our own limits and push ourselves further and truly achieve the best of what we're capable of. I told them, the whole preaching fear and how this is why Christianity is slowly losing more and more people generation after generation. You have to, well, old school Christianity, because the new version is growing up with the, human psyche. They're realizing people don't want to be scared by their God anymore. People want to be empowered by what they believe in. They want to they want to be able to believe in themselves while still having something to fall back on, instead of looking at it as they have to believe in this other thing to have power over themselves. No, people want it the other way around now. They want to be able to believe in their own self-ability and have something else to believe in to fall back on. And then these so-called satanic bands empower the listeners. Iron Maiden, Sabaton, Metallica, Megadeth, Helveti, Slayer, even non-metal bands that are like this, Disturbed, Avenged Sevenfold, Papa Roach, Bring Me the Horizon, and I could keep going. The reason they bother this type of person, this type of Christian or Catholic who's this hardcore in it, is because the reason they bother you is because when they start asking questions you don't like. They start asking the tough questions because they aren't afraid anymore. They aren't afraid to look for answers. And in my opinion, fear is no way to live, and the mentality is changing, so you'd best change with the rest of your faith. Most people who are Christian or Catholic have started changing with the times, and this is good. They are realizing that fear is no way to live. And you need to open your minds and open your hearts and start being more accepting, but also being more inquisitive. Stop just saying God is the answer to everything and start realizing even if your God is real, He gave you this high of a capability of intelligence for a reason. Start searching for answers. Start being curious. Because New World Order, then the belief coursing through the hearts and minds of most, of younger people, and slowly making its way through everybody else's freedom. Everybody else, the belief is I have the freedom to be whoever I want to be. I'd rather die free on my feet than live a slave on my knees. Welcome to the beauty of this time. Welcome to the beauty that is true freedom. If you don't like it, that's your call. But don't expect it to stop or even slow down because you don't like it. It's basically carpe diem. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But it's there's a thing not a lot of kids say called YOLO. It's stupid as fuck. But it's basically the proper version of that. Realize there are consequences for your actions. Accept those consequences. That being said, remember that you only have one shot here in this life and in this reality. So fuck it all and reach for the stars. Try to extend yourself further than you think you can go. Because even if we fail and crash and burn, at least you can say you tried. And then there's a third video they did. They're talking about ancient satanic robes, Born of Osiris, if you guys know that band. Like I said, I'm just picking points out here and arguing them. I don't like it. They are referencing ancient Egypt, not Satanism. Those robes are not satanic. Stop. Go sit in a corner and learn your history. Those are basically the robes that would be worn by people who were making mummies out of the pharaohs, because the whole Anubis thing, jackal god of the dead. Ancient Egypt, not Satanism. Learn your shit, please. Please. There's only one thing I can't stand, and that is willful ignorance. Today, there's no reason to be willfully ignorant. Go do your research, please. Now, my other problem with this was they only mentioned very few bands in these videos, and purposely picked songs written by those bands to fuck with the heads of people like them. Every metal and rock band purposely writes a song or two that plays on the whole satanic thing. It's called shock value. It gets the views up, it gets them noticed, even if it's for the wrong reason. You ever heard of the idea that there's no such thing as bad publicity? There's no such thing as bad publicity. I dare April and Wayne, but now that I'm making a video out of this, I'm actually extending this challenge to anybody who feels like arguing this, whether they be hardcore Christian or just looking to have a debate with me and, honestly just want to play devil's advocate for giggles. Post video response. I'll keep posting one. We can have some fun with this if you want. But specifically to April and Wayne, I hope they actually do this challenge. I dare you guys to go look and actually research, and I mean really take some time to research some bands. I listed off 4 randomly that I really love, and I've used a lot of them as examples because I think they'll be the funnest ones to do, because I know most about them and because there's almost no way they can turn them around. That's reasonable that I won't be able to pick apart. Iron Maiden, Iced Earth, Helveti, and Sabaton. You know why? Because in order, Iron Maiden sing songs about problems with the world, how sick society is. See Blood Brothers, 2 Minutes to Midnight. 2 great examples. I could probably come up with more, but I'm getting a little bit, tired and shit. It's like almost midnight here. They also sing songs like Aces High and The Longest Day to honor those fallen soldiers who fought in World War I and World War II. Those 2 songs about World War II, but they have Passchendaele about World War I. The Legacy, which if you haven't actually heard it, I recommend everybody listen to it. It's eerie, slow, terrifying, but it explains fully the sheer... It paints a grim, terrifying picture of the sheer, true horror of one of the things that gets very little talk about World War I, which was the use of chemical weapons, the use of poison gas. Really gives you a true idea of how horrifying that must have been. Iced Earth is a giant history lesson, teaching about myths and legends and history. I mean, even their most evil-sounding album or songs are actually just ancient, basically ancient stories being retold. I mean, they're not really writing anything evil. I mean, they're also writing their own something Wicked Saga, I believe, is kind of their own little story on the side. The Sations idea and all this. They have this really weird side thing they like to do. They tell their own little story, but at the end of the day, it's just a story. There's nothing evil there. There's nothing satanic. But a lot of their stuff is literally just myths, legends, and history. I mean, The Glorious Burden as an album is just one massive-ass history lesson. That's it. Again, sorry. And their latest album, Dystopia, it's all about how sick society has become. See the title, Dystopia. It's the opposite of a utopia. It's bad. And Plagues of Babylon. I've only heard the title track, but just from that alone, and from knowing the actual history of Babylon, not the Christian history, go do your research. The actual history of Babylon, as far as we can guess from the descriptions we have managed to partially translate and the rough similarities, basically the bubonic plague that showed up in Europe. I can't remember the years off the top of my head, but the centuries. Somebody hopefully will comment it, or I will post it as a comment or something later. But that whole thing, the bubonic plague, the Black Plague, from the rough descriptions and such, we have managed to translate, because we actually have found the city of Babylon, like legitimately, the ruins. We obviously, I would hope people know this. This was discovered pretty decently long time ago. We're pretty sure that what basically wiped out Babylon, the plagues, since it uses up the plural version of the word, was actually just one. We're pretty sure it was actually just the bubonic plague again. So we're pretty sure it actually showed up twice in history. Why there's such a humongous time gap, we're not entirely sure, but we're pretty sure that, yeah, it was basically the same virus. So, again, history lesson. The plagues of Babylon actually was basically just one plague, one disease. But anyway, Helveti is a band that sings and honors their Celtic and their Celtic ancestry, but along with their own personal ancestry, which is Helvetian, or I believe is how they pronounce it. They have a really cool way of saying things because they're not actually English, but Helveti essentially. And again, I apologize if I'm horribly butchering the accent or dialect. It's about a tribe that fell to the Romans in ancient times at the River Saone. Specifically, Julius Caesar was a prick. If you don't actually know that, go do your research, please, again, because he was far from a nice guy. He was an asshole, but he basically stabbed the tribe in the back. It's a whole lesson of what happened in that whole the Gaulish Wars in general. Sabaton literally sings about World War I, World War II, and along with many different wars in the history of different nations. I mean, honoring their history and their stories. See 40 to 1, as I've already explained. See Aces in Exile, a great song about the unmentioned members of the RAF, the people who weren't actually British. I mean, did you know the 303rd Airborne Division, the 303rd Division of the British RAF, which wasn't even British, had the highest confirmed kill count. They were sorry about that. My computer decided to get. Sorry about that. My computer decided to get weird on me. It started trying to play things. As I was saying, the three, for instance, one of the things I learned because of Sabaton, the 303rd Division in the RAF, the Royal Air Force, in case you don't know what that stands for, in World War II, wasn't even British, actually. They were all Polish, but they had the highest confirmed kill count. Makes sense, because they had something far worth fighting for that was far more... Britain might have been fighting to keep their country, but Poland was fighting to get back their home. The Polish were fighting to get back their homeland, and to, get... They had nothing left to lose. They'd lost their homes, a lot of them had lost their families, so... Makes sense that they'd be the most dangerous pilots. So, and they sing about all this different history, and they're honoring the history and the stories, and they're honoring fallen soldiers. If you think that's evil, I have no words for how wrong I think you are. These musicians, these bands, for the most part, are some of the most down-to-earth people on the planet, and love every single one of their fans. So, to end this, like I said, I throw that challenge out. Pick any band. I'll do the research necessary to fight back, but pick any metal or rock band. I mean, some of them I might even concur a little bit with you on if you want to. I throw this challenge out to all of you, including not just April and Wayne. But the big ones that I would love to see you try, because I will win. Iron Maiden, Iced Earth, Helveti, Sabaton. Bring it. Bring it on. Please. I dare you. It'll be so much fun ripping your hilarious attempts at calling these bands satanic devil worshippers a new asshole. Hell, I will make my own video responses if you do. So, what do you say, guys? Game on, I guess. So, hopefully I would love it if they respond. I really would. It would entertain me to no end. Anyway, I apologize. This got far longer than was expected. But that's basically all I'm going to go with today. So, there you go. My little rant, as it were. So, here's some horns for you boys and girls. Love it, love it, love it. And just remember, just remember at the end of the day, be what you want to be, and don't ever let anybody tell you you're wrong. Alright, peace, guys.